minutes for participating states and 3 minutes for other statements. Pursuant to Rule 72 of the Rules of Procedure, when a representative exceeds her or his allotted time, the President shall call the Speaker to order without delay, which will be done by means of automatic microphone cutoff. In accordance with Resolution 72/313, the All Protocol Observed principle is recommended, whereby participants are encouraged to refrain from the listing of standard protocol expressions during their statements. Within this time frame, I would like to appeal to speakers to deliver their statements at a reasonable pace so that interpretation into the other official United Nations languages may be provided properly. The list of speakers for each meeting shall be completed, and no speakers will be rolled over to the next meeting. Speakers who are not present when their speaking turn comes will be automatically moved to the next available speaking slot within their category at the same time. I invite His Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, to address the Assembly.
Sua Excelência Filemon Yang, Presidente da 79ª Sessão da Assembleia Geral das Nações Unidas, Excelências, tenho a honra de tomar a palavra nesta importante cimeira, que considero crucial para examinarmos em conjunto as melhores estratégias que nos ajudem a revigorar e renovar o sistema multilateral, para estarmos melhor preparados para enfrentar os novos desafios mundiais e riscos emergentes. Saúdo Sua Excelência António Guterres, expressando-lhe as minhas mais calorosas felicitações por ter lançado o repto da realização da Cimeira do Futuro. Aproveito a ocasião para destacar com satisfação o trabalho exemplar desenvolvido pela República da Namíbia e pela República Federal da Alemanha, que na condição de cofacilitadores do processo negocial para a adoção do Pacto para o Futuro. Esperamos que com a realização desta cimeira possamos em conjunto encontrar mais facilmente as soluções multilaterais para um amanhã melhor. A adoção do Pacto para o Futuro representa, sem sombra de dúvidas, um verdadeiro ponto de viragem para uma abordagem mais dinâmica, mais comprometida, mais engajada e assertiva de questões importantes para a humanidade. É nossa convicção que o compromisso político que assumimos aqui contribuirá decisivamente para que o mundo consiga reunir os recursos necessários ao financiamento para o desenvolvimento sustentável e os esforços de construção de uma nova arquitetura de paz, tendo sempre no centro da nossa abordagem a defesa dos direitos humanos, da igualdade do género e do imperativo de não se deixar ninguém para trás. Excelências, na implementação deste roteiro global, não podemos deixar de fora a juventude e as mulheres, que são motores vitais de transformação e modernização da humanidade. Como todos nós podemos verificar, o Pacto para o Futuro oferece uma oportunidade para uma participação mais ativa, significativa e atuante dos jovens e das mulheres na tomada de decisões a todos os níveis. Na nossa investida em torno da construção de um futuro sustentável para todos, devemos também colocar como ponto importante o incremento da luta a favor da erradicação da pobreza em todas as suas formas e dimensões, incluindo a pobreza extrema, que é o maior desafio global do nosso tempo e um requisito indispensável para alcançar o desenvolvimento sustentável, a segurança alimentar, o acesso à energia, à conectividade digital, à educação, ao emprego e à proteção social. Não podemos realizar as nossas luamos para uma arquitetura de paz em que o princípio da segurança partilhada seja defendido e protegido por todos, de modo que nenhum cidadão, Estado, região ou zona geográfica se sinta protegida à custa da insegurança de outros. A República de Angola defende que não é possível construir-se um mundo equilibrado, seguro e sustentável em que a dignidade e o acesso às oportunidades sejam um benefício exclusivo de um pequeno grupo de privilegiados em detrimento da maioria da população mundial. Defendemos igualmente a necessidade de se alcançarem consensos sobre a reforma da arquitetura financeira mundial e da arquitetura da dívida soberana mundial, sendo para isso crucial que tenhamos um sistema financeiro internacional mais justo e capaz de servir também os interesses dos países em desenvolvimento. Angola tem feito nos últimos tempos uma aposta decisiva e responsável na questão da transição da economia para a digitalização de todos os processos que a envolvem. Estamos convencidos que, ao darmos este passo, colocaremos as nossas populações e instituições mais próximas e vinculadas aos mecanismos mais modernos de interconexão global da economia e do comércio, reduzindo assim as barreiras geográficas que a economia tradicional impõe. Gostaria de terminar manifestando
I thank the President of the Republic of Angola. I invite His Excellency Pete Pavel, President of the Czech Republic, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to address this distinguished audience and express my gratitude to the Secretary General and his team, who started one of the most important processes of our time, focused on revitalizing multilateralism. The 2030 Agenda is our common goal and the roadmap for sustainable development. Now we have a unique opportunity to accelerate its implementation. The Pact for the Future creates a solid base for a better and more effective multilateral system, and we stand ready to work together with other delegations on ensuring summit's successful follow-up. In order to find the right way forward, we need to know and understand the challenges that threaten our future. Let me clearly state that the Russian aggression, an aggression by a country that is a permanent member of the Security Council against sovereign Ukraine, represents a singular challenge shaking the very core of the international system and the fundamental principles of the United Nations. But addressing one challenge does not diminish the urgency of others. We are aware of the suffering caused by wars and conflicts, of the life-threatening disasters aggravated by climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, the slow progress in achieving sustainable development, or pervasive violations and abuses of human rights. These challenges are connected. No country is immune to them, and no country can address them on their own. Let me now highlight specifically 2 points. First, I welcome the Global Digital Compact. It outlines a common vision and intent to promote realistic international cooperation in the context of digital technologies worldwide and presents a joint understanding of some core principles. Czechia will play an active role. Digital transformation cannot serve to the benefit of every individual without a human-centric and human rights-based approach to the challenges that are ahead. The potential of today's emerging technologies like artificial intelligence or biotech is enormous. They will surely contribute to finding solutions to many of today's challenges. At the same time, greater technological dependence creates greater vulnerabilities. Therefore, I recently co-sponsored the launch of the Prague Geotech Summit to be held every year at the GlobeSec Forum. Its aim is to foster dialogue between business, academia, and government to contribute to our shared understanding of how to handle technology safely on a daily basis and protect ourselves against its misuse by malign actors, being it individuals, groups, or states. My second point concerns climate change. The current climate crisis and its far-reaching implications must be addressed in a comprehensive and integrated way through enhanced and effective multilateralism. The recent floods in Central Europe, probably worst in decades, are a clear reminder of the growing threat of climate-induced weather events. Czechia will continue to advocate for a stronger global response. Addressing climate change is more than one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It is a threat multiplier with the potential to worsen some of humanity's greatest challenges, such as poverty, hunger, or health. We are ready to work with all international partners to ensure successful outcome of the next UN Climate Conference to be held in November in Baku. Through our bilateral and multilateral development assistance, we implement a wide range of climate-related projects to help partner countries to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the outcomes of the Summit of the Future will only become effective if we fully implement them. And our work begins at home. The Czech historical experience with transition from authoritarian to a democratic state, from a centrally planned to a market economy, taught us many lessons. Ever since then, we have been striving to build upon the benefits of participatory decision-making, particularly youth engagement, rule of law, and accountable institutions as catalysts for a sustainable future for all. That work never finishes. To end with, I wish to confirm that Czechia joins others in demanding a tangible reform of the UN system. Czechia will also continue to pay its regular budget contribution to the UN in full and on time, and urge others to meet their financial obligations, as well to ensure that the UN can carry.
I thank the President of the Czech Republic. I invite His Excellency Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, Transitional President of Gabon, Chairman of the Committee for the Transition, to address the Assembly.
Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président de la 79e session de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, Monsieur le Secrétaire général de l'Organisation des Nations unies, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, à l'occasion de cette circonstance particulière, je voudrais m'acquitter du convenable devoir, celui d'exprimer mes encouragements au président de la 79e Assemblée générale des Nations unies, Son Excellence Philémon Yang, et à tous les États membres pour la tenue de cet important sommet en marge de l'Assemblée générale. Comme tous ceux qui m'ont précédé, je voudrais remercier les coprésidents des négociations pour la réussite des présentes assises. Monsieur le Président, depuis mon entrée en fonction, le Comité pour la restauration des institutions démontre non seulement sa volonté de restaurer les droits fondamentaux des citoyens, mais aussi d'implémenter les réformes significatives visant à améliorer leurs conditions de vie, tout en respectant nos engagements à l'international. Ce processus, tout aussi inclusif, est une promesse d'espoir qui passe nécessairement par une gouvernance transparente et responsable, renforçant ainsi la confiance entre les peuples et les dirigeants. Cet esprit de restauration nationale n'obère pas notre attachement au multilatéralisme, que nous considérons comme un levier essentiel pour la paix dans le monde. En matière de paix et de sécurité, il apparaît évident, aux yeux de tous, que le Conseil de sécurité doit se réformer pour se mettre en phase avec les réalités et les exigences de l'heure. L'Afrique, qui est aussi le théâtre de cette conflictualité déplorable, doit également prendre une part active à ces réformes. Pour y parvenir efficacement, il me semble indispensable de réformer l'architecture financière mondiale en investissant massivement dans la réalisation des objectifs du développement durable. Dans le souci de ne laisser aucun pays à marge, il importe que tous aient un accès équitable aux ressources financières nécessaires. Cela implique un allègement de la dette et des opportunités de financement concessionnel, telles que la rétribution pour la préservation de nos forêts ou la conversion dette nature. La solidarité internationale implique aussi une coopération scientifique et technologique qui favorise l'accès aux données scientifiques et le transfert des nouvelles technologies. Monsieur le Président, plus de la moitié de la population gabonaise a moins de 20 ans. Celle-ci interpelle constamment les gouvernants sur les questions d'avenir. C'est pourquoi j'accueille avec satisfaction notre engagement pour le pacte de l'avenir, à renforcer de façon significative la participation des jeunes au niveau international. Un tel engagement exige un investissement conséquent dans le développement d'un écosystème éducatif international accessible à tous, donnant lieu à l'emploi et à l'entrepreneuriat. Monsieur le Président, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, je souhaiterais souligner que le pacte de l'avenir se réalise pleinement dans un élan de solidarité, d'action concrète et de pragmatisme. Dans sa marche sereine vers la félicité, mon pays, le Gabon, s'engage à jouer sa partition. Je vous remercie.
I thank the Transitional President of Gabon, Chairman of the Committee for the Transition. I invite His Excellency Andrzej Duda, President of the Republic of Poland, to address the Assembly.
Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, at the outset, let me thank the Secretary General for his initiative to convene this summit and all the countries facilitating the negotiations of its documents. We believe the summit provides a unique opportunity to reflect on the effectiveness of current structures in addressing key global challenges. We all can see significant shifts in international relations. The order based on international law and solidarity enshrined in the UN Charter is under serious threat. The global multilateral system has become in many ways dysfunctional and needs to be reformed. We cannot accept that those who challenge the order based on the UN Charter are gaining strength. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is a striking example. As a permanent member of the Security Council, Russia should uphold the UN Charter and the international law. However, by attacking a sovereign state, it has relinquished its responsibility. Consequently, Russia can no longer claim to be safeguarding the security of the international system and that of other nations. We must strive to improve the efficiency of the UN system. In order to restore faith in multilateralism and maintain peace and security, it is necessary to strengthen international law. Despite many reservations about the UN system, there is no better alternative to multilateralism. Today's global challenges are complex and require collective action, as individual states cannot address them alone. Commitment to multilateralism with the UN at its core is a cornerstone of Polish foreign policy. We are determined to defend the UN Charter and its principles. We advocate for fair global governance and the reinforcement of international cooperation across the key pillars of the UN: peace and security, development, and human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased that the Pact for the Future addresses the strengthening and promotion of the three pillars of the UN activity: peace and security, development and human rights, as well as respect for the UN Charter and international law. It identifies the actions needed to achieve the ambitious goals related to strengthening the multilateral system and achieving the goals of the 2030 Agenda. It is necessary to ensure adequate participation of women in global governance and take into account the perspectives of the younger generation. At the same time, the issues related to aging populations and the expectations of younger generations remain equally challenging. We are aware that the outcome of the summit must reconcile various perspectives and ambitions. We are ready to work together to achieve ambitious results and fully implement the Pact for the Future in the coming years. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of Poland. I invite His Excellency Daniel Noboa Azin, Constitutional President of the Republic of Ecuador, to address the Assembly.
Excelencias, delegados, damas y caballeros. Las decisiones y compromisos globales deben definirse siempre con la presencia y aporte de quienes hoy construimos el mañana, los jóvenes. Como un presidente joven, me siento en la responsabilidad de representar y transmitir nuestra aspiración y deseo de que el Pacto del Futuro cumpla la promesa de asegurar el futuro resiliente, sostenible e inclusivo. A las alarmantes tasas de crecimiento de desempleo juvenil las debemos enfrentar con inversión pública y privada, pues las asignaciones de recursos focalizados adecuadamente nos permitirá ofrecer un mayor acceso a la educación en todos sus niveles y modalidades, así como condiciones con mejores oportunidades laborales. Solo así podremos alejarlos de las manos del crimen, las drogas y el delito organizado transnacional que tanto nos acecha en este momento. En el Ecuador estamos creando oportunidades concretas y reales para que los jóvenes tengan alternativas y dignifiquen y mejoren sus condiciones de vida, las de sus familias y la de la sociedad ecuatoriana, a través de políticas públicas comprensivas, becas e incentivos financieros. He tomado decisiones que nos han devuelto la esperanza, pues esa es la manera de construir un ambiente de seguridad y de paz. De esta forma, se garantiza que cada joven contribuye al desarrollo económico, social y ambiental, a un futuro mejor para nuestra sociedad. Si no le damos un país de paz a nuestros jóvenes, ¿de qué futuro hablamos? Por esto, reafirmo en este Foro Mundial el compromiso del Ecuador con la paz, por lo cual es fundamental promover mecanismos multilaterales y de las Naciones Unidas que enfrenten las crisis multidimensionales y nuevas amenazas globales, que desestabilizan regiones, erosionan la democracia y el Estado de Derecho y reducen las oportunidades de bienestar de nuestros ciudadanos, en especial a nuestros jóvenes ciudadanos. Hay un vínculo indisoluble entre la paz y el desarrollo. La violencia y la inseguridad a menudo están asociados con la inestabilidad, la falta de oportunidades y recursos. Reconocer esta interrelación es esencial para desarrollar estrategias efectivas que aborden de manera integral las desigualdades económicas y los problemas de seguridad. Nuestro examen nacional voluntario, presentado hace 2 meses en esta casa, reveló que 6 metas del ODS 16, paz, justicia e instituciones sólidas, generan sinergias con 125 metas en los demás ODS. Quiero hacer un agradecimiento especial a Saría Moya por habernos ayudado y trabajado incansablemente en esto. Esta correlación nos confirma que avanzar en paz y justicia es crucial para el éxito integral de la Agenda 2030, demostrando el estrecho vínculo entre la paz y la estabilidad con el desarrollo sostenible. El Ecuador, comprometido con acelerar la implementación de la Agenda 2030, ha alineado su Plan Nacional de Desarrollo con los ODS y ha logrado avances significativos en la reducción de la pobreza, el combate a la desnutrición infantil y la contribución con el cuidado del medio ambiente. Hoy, el Ecuador reafirma su compromiso para seguir colaborando estrechamente con todos los países del mundo y transformar el Pacto de Futuro, adoptado ayer, en una realidad. También hace una observación especial, que es entender qué es lo que está pasando en nuestras naciones, lo que pasa en Latinoamérica, lo que está pasando también en los países del África. Tenemos una población joven. En el Ecuador, 40% de la población está entre 14 y 35 años. Y si es que no resolvemos las necesidades básicas, los problemas básicos de nuestros jóvenes, va a ser imposible cumplir una Agenda 2030. Si hoy no pensamos en la educación de nuestros jóvenes, la capacitación y el empleo de nuestros jóvenes, va a ser imposible llegar a cumplir esa agenda. Debemos de tener una clara visión de que los jóvenes son no solo el futuro, son también la herramienta para llegar a ese futuro de una manera equitativa, de una manera justa.
I thank the Constitutional President of the Republic of Ecuador. I invite His Excellency Peter Pellegrini, President of the Slovak Republic, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Slovakia, as one of the co-founders of the UN system, is and remains a long-term and consistent advocate of multilateralism and international cooperation. We welcome the agreed pact for the future and its annexes, the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generation. It's a long-needed success of multilateralism. My gratitude to the co-facilitators for their work and also to the Secretary General for his vision that guided and shaped this summit. By the next year, 80 years will have passed since the Bretton Woods Conference, which changed the way of global governance. We know that what used to take centuries or millennia now takes decades or even years. In plain speech, many changes come more often and much faster than in the past. But we also live in a world with the highest amount of conflicts and humanitarian crises. We see unprecedented refugee numbers and growing climate change impacts too. What was considered best in class for most industries 10 years ago is now slower than the average. If this applies to business, why wouldn't it apply to international cooperation? We can afford no more senseless exchange as we did on climate exchange. We need to reflect on facts instead of denying them. One of the most positive features of our time is huge data collection. Together with the rising AI technology, it gives us the power to see and do things based on facts and science. The flip side is the spread of disinformation and lies. Our policies have to reflect that our lives are increasingly transferred to the digital space. Our online identities become equally important as our physical identities. We need to create conditions of what I call digital humanism, defining the rights and obligations of the virtual world, and equally important, tools for their enforcement. We need to ensure that the rules of the online world mirror the rules of the physical world. Online threats and dangers aren't less real than their offline versions. Words and deeds in the virtual world can be even more destructive because they reach a much broader audience. Expressing opinions in digital space shouldn't be restricted, but it should be guided by similar principles that we already apply outside the Internet: full responsibility and clear identity. Let's not confuse such rules with harm to the freedom of speech. Every freedom requires accountability. We don't know what the future holds for us, but what we do now is that the pace of change will not get any slower. We also know education, inclusion, investing in our youth, and reducing the digital divide play a vital role in bracing for our digital future. We don't get to choose in which part of the world we are born. Everyone deserves an equal starting line with the digital technologies. Today, they provide access to information, higher economic growth, and fairer social conditions, the way to a better life. Access to digital tools shouldn't be determined only by money, but by individual skills and talents. Living in a digital world also means lifelong learning. I am in my 50s and love technology, but I have to be ready to constantly learn new skills to keep up. Change and adaptability will remain the only constants. Wise infrastructure choice, rich data collection and analysis, not intuition, bias or prejudice, should primarily shape our policies. We are on a steady road to an increasingly unstable world full of repeated crises. The global challenges are urgent and complex, and so must be our decision-making. Of course, a stronger, more effective and reformed multilateral system would be desired, but we can also manage with institutions and mechanisms that we already have in place. We need to invest more in respectful, practical and result-oriented cooperation, just like we did with this pact. It's also a way to reduce the mistrust among UN members and institutions. I consider the Pact for the Future a stepping stone of adoption, not the end of the journey. There are many tasks ahead of us. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Slovak Republic. I invite His Excellency Alexander Stubb, President of the Republic of Finland, to address the Assembly.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there are a lot of cynics outside of this room who are probably thinking, what's this pact on the future? I actually disagree with them. I think this is an extremely good pact. Why? Because in many ways it shows the difference between multilateralism and compromise and cooperation versus multipolarity and disorder. And in many ways I think we are witnessing the 1920, 1945 or 1989 moment of history. And do you remember in 1920 the League of Nations was a good idea, but it wasn't able to sustain peace at the end of the day. In 1945, 79 years ago, when the UN was founded, it was a success. Why? Because we pooled sovereignty and tried to find common solutions to common problems. And I think that yesterday's pact shows that the UN works. I have two questions today. The first one is, what's the paradox of our times? And the second one is, why we need to reform the UN right now. Now, the paradox of our time is that precisely at the moment when we need multilateral cooperation, we are reverting to multipolar, transactional disorder. And look where it's taking us. We're not achieving our sustainable development goals. We're not achieving our targets in the climate crisis. And we're witnessing 4 major wars simultaneously in Ukraine, Palestine, Sudan, and of course, Syria. Now, I'm really worried. The problem is that we have a whole bunch of global goods, such as climate change, technology, sustainable development, immigration, and conflicts, which we cannot solve without the United Nations. And I actually think that the Pact on the Future gives us a lot of answers. My second question is, why do we need reform now? Now, a lot of those people who bash the United Nations, they often bash us here in New York because we're not achieving political results. And to a certain extent, they're right. But they forget that there's a part of the UN that works, and that's the agencies in Geneva. Now, of course, the main task of the UN Security Council is to preserve peace. And let's be honest, it has failed to do so. And you know what? The UN Security Council, in my mind, does not reflect the world of today. Why? Because there's no representation from Latin America, there's no representation from Africa, and there's only one country from Asia. And the thing is that if you want an institution to work, if you want to work within that institution, you need to feel that you have agency, that you work with it. So on Wednesday, I guess repetition is the mother of all wisdom, I will make 3 proposals for the reform of the UN Security Council. The first one is to expand it by 5 members, 1 from Latin America, 2 from Africa, and 2 from Asia. My second proposal is that the veto power of all permanent and non-permanent members of the Security Council should be scrapped. And the third one is that if a member of the Security Council blatantly violates the UN Charter, its voting rights in the Council should be suspended. Is this a realistic proposal? I hope the chairman gives me extra time because of the applause. I much appreciate that. So I will then conclude. I come from a very small country, Finland. We lost 10% of our territory to the Soviet Union in World War II, but our success as a country, coming from one of the poorest countries in Europe, now managing quite well, is linked to the United Nations. So I understand the meaning of the United Nations and multilateral cooperation. This pact on the future gives us many good answers. Let's start implementing it. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Republic of Finland. I invite His Excellency Edgars Rinkēvičs, President of the Republic of Latvia, to address the Assembly.
Your Excellency, President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, the world is changing, bringing along new opportunities and challenges for our societies. We need to be ready to adapt to the new realities. That is why we are all here, for our joint commitment to effective global cooperation, for our roadmap to collective action, the Pact for the Future. I would like to use this opportunity and thank Germany and Namibia for their leadership in steering the negotiations towards this ambitious outcome. Effective multilateralism is essential in an increasingly interconnected world. Global challenges, from climate change and pandemics to conflict and inequality, go far beyond national borders. The United Nations has a key role in tackling these challenges. Increase of threats to international peace and security are of particular concern. Building on the Secretary-General's new agenda for peace, we need a new approach to the evolving security landscape. Achieving sustainable development for all and leaving no one behind are commitments we made back in 2015. The overall progress towards Agenda 2030 is too slow. We must be more decisive and bolder in our commitment to these goals. Allow me to highlight a few points. Digital and emerging technologies can help to reach our goal of sustainable future. The Global Digital Compact is our path to inclusive digital transformation, where human rights are the center. Our commitment to combat climate change and sea level rise must be carried out. For some countries, it is a matter of peace and security. For others, a question of their existence. Gender equality and empowerment of women is a requirement for sustainable development. Latvia is a strong advocate for the Women, Peace and Security agenda, especially focusing on the elimination of war-related sexual violence. Full and meaningful participation of the youth in decision-making is very important. We must listen to the youth and deliver on our commitment to protect the generations to come. The United Nations is the core of a multilateral system uniting all sovereign states. It has an essential role to maintain international peace and security. But the frameworks we have built need urgent revision. International institutions must become more representative. They must reflect today's political and economic realities. Latvia strongly supports the strive to improve the working methods of the Security Council. The permanent members of the Security Council must uphold their responsibility to protect peace and security, especially Russia, which continues to wage its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, if we deliver on these commitments and the Pact for the Future, it will echo through generations. Latvia is prepared to work towards a safe, equal and sustainable future. Our commitment to the international rules-based order is driving also our bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council at the 2025 elections. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of Latvia. I invite His Excellency Emomali Rahmon, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, to address the Assembly.
محترم جناب رئیس، محترم جناب دبیرکل، خانم‌ها و جنابان، نخست می‌خواستم به دبیرکل سازمان ملل متحد برای تشبث تشکیلات سامیت آینده و دعوت برای اشتراک در این همایش مهم عرض سپاس نمایم. با سعی و تلاش‌های هماهنگ‌سازانه پیمان به خاطر آینده نمایندگان آلمان و نمیبیا را بلند ارزیابی می‌نماییم. این نشست برای بررسی مشکلات تغییریابی اقلیم، حفظ سلامتی عامه، رفع کمبزاعتی، وضع زندگی زنان، تحصیلات فراگیر و دیگر مسائل گلوبالی باز یک امکانیت مناسب را فراهم آورده است. مسائل وابسته به خلع اصلاح، نظارت اسلحه و خفف تهدیدهای معاصر به صلح و امنیت همانا توجه جدی ما را تقاضا می‌نماید. مطرح گردیدن مشکلات آب و اقلیم در سند نهایی این سامیت ضرورت ادامه عملهای تأخیر ناپذیر کشورهای عضو و دیگر طرفهای منفعت‌دار را به خاطر تأمین نمودن آینده آسوده و آرام برای نسل‌های بعدی ثابت می‌سازد. روند تطبیقی 10 ساله بین المللی عمل و برای رشد استوار سالهای 2018-2028 یکی از نمونه‌های روشنی تلاش‌های پیوسته ما در این جاده می‌باشد. حاضرین گرامی، قبول گردیدن پیمان به خاطر آینده از نتیجه این سامیت و شرایط راست می‌آید که در منطقه‌های گوناگون سیاره میلیون‌ها نفر مردم آسایشته و خفت و تهدیدهای گوناگون امنیتی دچار شدند. جامعه جهانی می‌تواند تنها توسط مکالمه و همکاری سازنده در پیدا کردن راه‌های رفع خطرهای معاصر کامیاب گردد. تحکیم و توسعه همکاری‌ها، جهت رسیدن به هدف‌های رشد استوار از اقدام‌های مشترک در راه تأمین صلح و ثبات پایدار وابستگی بواسطه دارد. از این لحاظ ما در سطح جهانی اندیشیدن تدبیرهای مشترک را با مقصد پرزور کردن همکاری و همیاری برای تأمین امنیت فراگیر مهم شماریم. تاجیکستان با صفت کشور میزبان روند دوشنبه عاید به مبارزه بر ضد تروریسم از درج گردیدن این موضوع در پیمان در برابر دیگر موضوعات کلیدی استقبال می نماید. ما از نقش کلیدی و هم آهنگسازی سازمان ملل متحد در این جاده جانبداری می نماییم. خانم‌ها و جنابان، امروز ما شاهد افزایش نزاعات در مناطق گوناگون جهان هستیم که صدها هزار تلفات جانی را میان اهالی آسایشته در پی دارد. مراقبت دولت‌ها را ضرور است که اطراف هدف‌های عمومی با مقصد تأمین صلح پایدار در تمام کره زمین و خاتمه بخشیدن بر رنج و عذاب آدمان بر اثر جنگ‌ها و پیامدهای دهشتبار آنها متحد شویم. وقتی آن رسید است که ما از اقدام‌های مؤثر برای تقویت نقش اساسی سازمان ملل متحد در حل نزاعات و برقرارسازی صلح و ثبات در سیاره کار بگیریم. در رابطه با این پیشنهاد می‌نمایم که توسط قطعنامه مخصوص سازمان ملل 10 ساله تحکیم صلح به خاطر نسل‌های آینده قبول کرده شود. همزمان با این ضرور می‌شماریم که سازمان ملل متحد و نهادهای آن اینچنین مؤسسه‌های بین‌المللی و منطقوی مالیوی در هماهنگسازی تلاش‌های جامعه جهانی با مقصد رسیدن به رشد استوار اقدام‌های فعالتر و راه‌اندازی نماید. اطمینان دارم که سامیت امروزه برای بررسی عمیق و حل مشکلات جهانی معاصر زمینه مناسب خواهد گذاشت. از توجهتان سپاسگزارم.
I thank the President of the Republic of Tajikistan. Notwithstanding the provision of Decision 79 504 of 13 September, I invite His Excellency Alessandro Rossi and Her Excellency Milena Gasperoni, Captains Regent of the Republic of San Marino, to address the Assembly.
Okay. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, colleagues, the Republic of San Marino expresses deep concern about the armed conflict which are still ongoing around the world. We are now witnessing the highest number of wars since 1945, and the resulting devastating crises, such as worsening humanitarian crisis, bring every state face to face with its responsibilities. 80 years after World War II, during which the Republic of San Marino offered hospitality to over 100,000 refugees, our country has once again renewed its concrete solidarity and strong humanitarian commitment in favor of hundreds of Ukrainian citizens. The Republic of San Marino has taken in over 400 Ukrainian refugees, more than 1% of the entire San Marino population, thanks to the solidarity of public and private institutions, NGOs, and with the help of many volunteers. Together with the refugee crisis, the impact of conflicts may lead to a global food crisis. In its capacity of promoter of the resolution establishing 29th of September as the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, San Marino firmly believes that combating food loss and waste will help promote food security and welcomes all initiatives aimed at raising awareness of such responsible behavior. San Marino has decided to cooperate within the framework of international structures and mechanisms, at the top of which is United Nations Organization, because it firmly believes in dialogue, democracy, and respect for others, as founding values of peaceful coexistence among peoples. No one must remain indifferent to war, but instead we must all work responsibly to create the condition for dialogue and peace with the full involvement of international institutions.
The importance of dialogue and its relevance in democratic and inclusive societies are the basis for the plan of action to combat violent extremism and the radicalization that leads to terrorism. The Republic of San Marino still remembers the outstanding work carried out by the late diplomat Guido Bellati Ceccoli with regard to the religious dimension of intercultural dialogue, which made our country an important point of reference on this subject and led to the opening in the Republic of a place of prayer and meditation for different types of spirituality. The Republic of San Marino is convinced that this historically important summit and its final declaration, the Pact for the Future, whose principles are fully shared by our country, will give a new impetus to the entire multilateral system and to international cooperation in general, strengthening the UN institutions so they continue to represent a beacon for the protection of peace and human rights. Indeed, in the case of small states, international law is seen as the one and the only safeguard in the event of a threat to their existence, and multilateral fora represent a valuable megaphone to make their voices heard, which would otherwise remain unheard. Within international fora, San Marino has always contributed to highlighting the role that small states can play as facilitators of dialogue and promoters of peace. The Summit of the Future will pave the way toward action leading to a safe, peaceful, fair, equal, and sustainable world, and our Republic will actively contribute to the search for collective solutions for a future of peace and dialogue, a better and more sustainable future for us and for future generations, in accordance with international law, including the United Nations Charter. Thank you all.
I thank Captains Regent of the Republic of San Marino. I invite His Excellency Nikos Christodoulides, President of the Republic of Cyprus, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, last year's summit marked the beginning of a new phase as we collectively committed to accelerating progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We reaffirm our commitment to the 2030 Agenda as our primary framework for addressing the multifaceted crisis facing humanity. This year is another pivotal moment as we should reinvigorate global efforts to success a sustainable future for all. Climate change, inequality, and conflict are only some of the multiple challenges the world faces today. Addressing them requires leadership and transformative action. The intergovernmental negotiations of the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations have revealed the extent of our perspectives. However, it is precisely this diversity and the bridging of different views, understandings, and expectations that is the true strength of multilateralism. I welcome the adoption of the Pact, and I commend the dedication of all who contributed to this, and primarily the co-facilitators. I truly believe that we can shape the future that reflects our shared values, even in complex negotiations. But our work does not end here. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move beyond this summit, Cyprus is ready to work alongside our partners in fostering collaboration between governments, intergovernmental organizations, civil society, and the private sector. In this interconnected world, networked multilateralism is essential. As a member of the European Union and the Asia-Pacific Group, and with strong ties to the small island developing states, Cyprus has a unique position, stands as a bridge between regions and perspectives. This vantage point equips us to better understand and address the concerns of our counterparts in Europe, Asia, the Pacific, and beyond. For Cyprus, climate change is not a distant threat. It is a reality. Droughts, rising sea levels, and extreme weather events affect our livelihoods and communities daily. Hence, we welcome the growing global commitment to addressing these urgent issues as reflected in the Pact for the Future. Dear colleagues, as a small island state, we are committed to working together alongside all UN member states to ensure the full enjoyment of human rights on equal footing. In this spirit of commitment, Cyprus has put forward its candidacy for the UN Human Rights Council for 2025-2027. Our focus will be on advancing the human rights of all, with particular attention to children, women, persons with disabilities, and other vulnerable groups. We will also promote cultural dialogue to bridge divides and combat discrimination. My country stands ready to continue collaborating with all UN member states, not only to defend human rights, but also to take concrete actions toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Together, we have the power and the responsibility to turn these ambitions to reality and ensure future generations inherit a world defined by justice, sustainability, and peace. Thank you very much.
I thank the President of the Republic of Cyprus, and I invite His Highness Prince Albert II, Sovereign Prince of Monaco, to address the Assembly.
Excellences, je remercie le secrétaire général, M. Antonio Guterres, pour la convocation de ce sommet qui nous offre une occasion unique d'évoquer ensemble l'avenir que nous voulons pour nos enfants, mais aussi pour notre planète, notre seule maison. En prenant l'engagement ferme de mettre en œuvre les 56 actions du pacte, nous posons les bases solides d'un partenariat renouvelé en faveur d'un monde meilleur, plus juste, équitable et prospère pour tous. En outre, la déclaration sur les générations futures nous fournit les outils nécessaires pour offrir à nos jeunes la possibilité de s'épanouir pleinement dans un environnement sain et harmonieux, tout en faisant d'eux le moteur du changement et les bâtisseurs de l'avenir. Les menaces sécuritaires, notamment les conflits, le terrorisme ou encore la criminalité transnationale organisée, impactent la stabilité et entravent le développement de nos sociétés. La paix est notre bien le plus précieux. Sans elle, il est impossible d'assurer l'accès aux droits humains les plus fondamentaux. Sans elle, nous ne pouvons rien entreprendre de durable et d'efficace au bénéfice de nos populations. Ramener la paix et la sécurité est donc une responsabilité collective et urgente. Monsieur le Président, nous savons que les tensions internationales sont exacerbées par la crise environnementale. Changement climatique, perte de la biodiversité, pollution des écosystèmes terrestres et marins sont autant de facteurs aggravants auxquels nous devons faire face. Réconcilier l'homme et la nature est un prérequis indispensable à l'établissement d'une société durable et apaisée. Mais aucun de nos objectifs ne saurait être atteint sans la participation et l'inclusion de toutes les femmes et les filles. L'autonomisation des femmes est un levier essentiel pour le progrès social, économique et politique. En leur assurant un accès égal à l'éducation, aux sphères économiques et décisionnelles, nous favorisons non seulement leur épanouissement personnel, mais aussi l'innovation et la croissance. Monsieur le Président, vous connaissez l'importance que j'accorde au pouvoir d'unification du sport, lequel est bien trop souvent sous-estimé. Le sport est un langage commun qui facilite le rapprochement entre les peuples et les cultures et efface les barrières sociales. Soyez assurés que mon pays continuera d'œuvrer pour que la contribution du sport en faveur de la paix et du développement social inclusif soit reconnue à sa juste valeur au sein des enceintes onusiennes. Monsieur le Président, nous nous sommes engagés à atténuer les risques potentiels liés à l'utilisation abusive des technologies numériques. Aussi, il nous incombe à présent d'établir les normes adéquates imposant une utilisation éthique de ces technologies, respectueuse des droits humains et des libertés fondamentales de chacun. Il nous faut également garantir que leur usage ne puisse être détourné à des fins illicites. À cet effet, nous ne pouvons que nous féliciter de l'adoption d'un pacte numérique mondial. Monsieur le Président, ce sommet constitue une étape cruciale pour le système multilatéral. Il nous offre l'opportunité de repenser le multilatéralisme, de le rendre plus apte à relever les défis mondiaux actuels et futurs et de réduire le déficit de confiance dont pâtissent les instances internationales. C'est pourquoi il apparaît indispensable d'accélérer nos efforts pour réformer la gouvernance de nos institutions dans l'objectif de les rendre plus inclusives et représentatives des réalités actuelles. Monsieur le Président, les crises multidimensionnelles que nous affrontons génèrent un retard considérable dans la mise en œuvre du programme de développement durable à l'horizon 2030. Pourtant, nous disposons des outils nécessaires, qu'ils soient juridiques, technologiques ou scientifiques, pour apporter des solutions durables et efficaces à nos défis contemporains. Agissons ensemble avec détermination, car le futur auquel nous aspirons dépend de notre engagement présent. Je vous remercie.
I thank the Sovereign Prince of Monaco, and I now invite His Excellency Wesley W. Semina, President and Head of Government of the Federated States of Micronesia, to address the Assembly.
Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, I bring warm greetings from the people of the Federated States of Micronesia, as we say it back home, Kamorale. Micronesia has consistently voiced its concerns on the global stage, particularly in advocating for the reduction of green gas emissions in line with the 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. We also championed initiatives to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies and transition away from the use of fossil fuels. This includes addressing non-CO2 emissions and short-lived climate pollutants in order to effectively combat the climate crisis, as these pollutants significantly contribute to global warming in the near term. By prioritizing their reduction, we can achieve more immediate temperature control, safeguard vulnerable communities, and enhance our efforts toward long-term climate goals. While we embrace the Pact for the Future, we do have some concerns about the text as adopted. We would like to suggest that the United Nations ensure that the implementation of the Pact includes robust and lasting commitments to transition away from coal, oil, and gas in all sectors of society, aligning with the 1.5 centigrade limit in the Paris Agreement. Climate change poses an existential threat to the environmental stability, peace, and security in Micronesia. As rising sea levels and extreme weather events jeopardize our livelihoods and displace communities, it is imperative that we recognize the profound link between climate resilience and the survival of our people. We must foster international cooperation to address this climate crisis with urgency. Our planet is at a critical point of no return, so the time for action is now. We possess the tools, knowledge, and innovative spirit to combat climate change and protect our ecosystems. The Pact for the Future serves as a call to action, urging us to commit to ambitious climate targets and investments in renewable energy. Together, we must strive to create a green economy that prioritizes both our planet and our people. The challenges we face transcend borders. They are global in nature. From public health to economic stability, our interconnectedness necessitates collaboration that goes beyond nationality and ideology. Let us forge partnerships, share resources, and establish frameworks for our collective resilience. We have engaged in formal discussions since yesterday, resulting in the adoption of the Pact. So each of us needs to dream boldly and act decisively in order to make it a reality. Therefore, our vision for the future must be crafted collectively by leaders, innovators, and citizens alike. Let us empower the next generation with the tools and knowledge they need to thrive in an ever-changing world. The Pact for the Future is crucial for the survival of the livelihoods and the well-being of humanity, especially in small island developing states like mine. We continue to face extreme challenges as a consequence of climate change, and our livelihoods stand on the brink of devastation. Therefore, I appeal to all of you to rally behind this pact so that we can safeguard the future of our people and our world. I thank you.
I thank the President and Head of Government of the Federated States of Micronesia. I invite His Excellency David Ranibok Adeyang, President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President and General Secretary, Excellencies, I want to align my statement with the distinguished representatives of Uganda on behalf of the G77 and China, with Samoa on behalf of AOSIS, and with Vanuatu on behalf of PSIDS. To the co-facilitators of the Summit of the Future, Namibia and Germany, I extend my sincere gratitude for tireless efforts on the Pact of the Future. Their exceptional leadership and commitment were crucial in guiding us to a successful conclusion amidst the immense challenges of this task. The Summit of the Future is our call to action. It's a call to rebuild trust, to reimagine our systems, and to secure a livable future. The Pact of the Future is our roadmap. Our priorities are clear: climate action, access to financing, and a reformed global governance that serves all nations. Nauru welcomes the Pact's ambition. And yet, as we consider this Pact, we must ask, does it truly address the needs of the most vulnerable? Does it offer more than lofty words and instead provide a roadmap with concrete commitments and financing for those who need it most? Implementation is paramount. We must transform our shared vision into a tangible reality, improving lives across every nation and every community. To achieve this, we need clear goals and robust metrics. These will be our compass, guiding our efforts and allowing us to track our progress transparently. We cannot and we must not content ourselves with words alone. The Pact recognizes the need for financial inclusion, but we must translate this into concrete action. The Pact's mention of renewable energy holds potential. Nauru is committed to powering our future with clean energy. We appreciate the reference to the MVI. The Pact acknowledges the complexity of our vulnerabilities, but we must see this reflected in global policies and programs. And we further call upon the IFI and MDBs to integrate the MVI into their frameworks. It is not just another statistic. It is a tool that provides a more accurate picture of our national circumstances, our strengths, our challenges, and our potential. The path ahead will not be easy. It demands commitment, innovative thinking, and the courage to challenge existing norms. We will judge this Pact not on the words spoken here, but on the actions taken in the years to come. And as we live this summit, let us carry with us not just hope, but determination. Let our actions speak louder than our words, and let us work to ensure that the Pact for the Future delivers on its promise. Matabai.
I thank the President and Head of State of the Republic of Nauru, and I invite His Excellency José Raúl Mulino Quintero, President of the Republic of Panama, to address the Assembly.
Muy buenos días, Terres. Un informe con recomendaciones para avanzar en nuestra agenda común. Fueron muchas las sugerencias aportadas. Sin embargo, según el secretario general, hay una constante. Las decisiones que tomemos o dejemos de tomar hoy pueden hacer que retrocedamos aún más o que avancemos hacia un futuro más verde, mejor y más seguro. Por este motivo, no podemos hablar de cumbre del futuro y de los documentos que de ella emanan sin mencionar nuestra agenda común del secretario general, que actúa como un mecanismo para acelerar la implementación de los acuerdos existentes, incluidos los objetivos del desarrollo sostenible. Por consenso general, hemos adoptado el Pacto por el Futuro, la Declaración de las Generaciones Futuras y el Pacto Digital Mundial. Estos documentos contienen el ideal para el bienestar de la humanidad a largo plazo, visualizando a las generaciones salientes como depositarias de un legado para las generaciones venideras. Aceptamos el llamado del secretario general a implementar las reformas presentadas y otras más profundas, con acciones significativas. La cumbre del futuro, con la participación de todos los líderes mundiales, es una oportunidad de oro para levantar nuestra voz, reafirmando nuestro compromiso con el fortalecimiento del sistema multilateral en temas tan importantes como el desarrollo sostenible y la financiación para el desarrollo, la paz y la seguridad internacionales, la ciencia, tecnología y la innovación y la cooperación digital, la juventud y las generaciones futuras, la transformación de la gobernanza global. Es un hecho reconocido que los desafíos que enfrentamos avanzan mucho más rápido que nuestra capacidad para resolverlos y que no podemos hacerlo solos. Por lo tanto, esta cumbre del futuro es un paso crucial hacia la construcción de un multilateralismo más fuerte y eficaz. Con las acciones tomadas, la humanidad tiene la oportunidad de actualizar y reformar las instituciones globales, incluido el Consejo de Seguridad y la arquitectura financiera internacional para que respondan a las realidades políticas y económicas del futuro. La Agenda 2030 se ha ralentizado. Los conflictos actuales están infligiendo sufrimiento. La pobreza y el hambre alcanzan niveles críticos en muchos países, mientras que los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible parecen cada vez más lejanos. La inequidad, la inseguridad y la violencia incrementan cada día, mientras que el acceso a educación de calidad ha quedado rezagado. Además, el creciente temor al uso del armamento nuclear derivado de los conflictos abiertos añade una preocupación más. No debemos heredar a las futuras generaciones desigualdad, injusticia, discriminación, misoginia y racismo en sus nuevas formas. Estas actitudes deterioran la buena fe y la confianza de la humanidad. Señor Presidente, no quiero finalizar sin aplaudir las propuestas presentadas que buscan lograr una mejor representación política, una transformación de la educación, una formación profesional y un aprendizaje permanente para nuestra juventud. La creación y establecimiento de un laboratorio de futuros, así como la designación de un enviado especial de las Naciones Unidas que garantice que las decisiones presupuestarias y políticas consideren las repercusiones para las generaciones futuras, es imperativo. Panamá, como país que ha cimentado las relaciones internacionales en el diálogo, la paz y el multilateralismo, se compromete a esforzarse por cumplir con las acciones derivadas del Pacto por el Futuro. Nos importan nuestros niños, nuestros jóvenes, y escuchamos sus voces siempre. Ellos serán quienes asuman la responsabilidad de hacer cumplir estas acciones, porque aquí reunidos hemos dado el primer paso. Muchísimas gracias.
I thank the President of the Republic of Panama, and I invite Her Excellency Hilda Heine, President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, the Republic of the Marshall Islands welcomes the Summit and Pact of the Future as an important opportunity to better match our collective political ambitions with a more effective UN system to help deliver results. Our sustainable development and security challenges are overwhelming. Rightly, the Pact has encouraged security and development agenda and assistance to be better aligned, a vital recognition that in the Pacific and in other fragile regions, development and security are closely linked. And as a low-lying atoll nation and small island developing state, climate remains our biggest security threat. By better emphasizing peace building, we can help to reduce vulnerability to rising seas and to rising tensions alike. This meeting should truly be for the future and to boost the rightful participation of the youngest and future generations. It is youth, the leaders of tomorrow, who will face the strongest consequences of inaction today. Mr. President,
The global digital divide is a major development challenge for our Pacific Island region. We are some of the most isolated places on Earth. We welcome the Global Digital Compact and highlight our joint program to advance digitalization, working with assistance across the UN system. It is important that more actions continue to show that we all can do more than commit. We can implement. Mr. President, the document ultimately reflects, not shapes, the fragmented multilateral platform. It is hard not to be frustrated over apparent political limitations. There is an incredible and persistent gap between ambitious solutions and international finance at hand. We have all seen far too many set it and forget it moments at international summits. And the international system is at risk of glossing over where we all have fallen short, instead of identifying and addressing the core causes. Many of the SDGs remain stuck in place despite our ambition and political will, and we cannot keep papering over the sobering shortcomings without arriving at the conclusion that the money just isn't there, or when it is so distant that it never reaches our shores and local communities. Finally, it will be an important task to develop clear lines and linkages between the Pact of the Future and the Antigua-Abbas agenda for SIDS. Small island nations need and deserve a dedicated focus, which we all adopted earlier this year. But if this pact is to be a blueprint for future partnership, then we cannot leave SIDS out of global goal setting. Mr. President, Taiwan remains a key partner to the Marshall Islands. Taiwan's important partnership deserves appropriate recognition. If we are to truly leave no one behind, then Taiwan deserves meaningful and enhanced participation in the UN system. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and I invite His Excellency Surendra Samuel Whips, President of the Republic of Palau, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Ali from Palau. Our tradition of bull as sustainable resource management practices, rooted in conservation and social order, has guided us toward sustainability for centuries, protecting our natural resources for future generations. As the least contributors to climate change, we face its harshest effects. Rising sea levels and extreme weather threaten our hospitals, schools, and food security, putting our children's future at risk. Our tradition of stewardship through the bull contrasts sharply with the global crisis we now confront, one we had little hand in creating. The fossil fuel addiction has worsened inequality and poverty. By returning to our traditions of the bull, sustainable ocean resource management, coupled with science and technology, we can lift our people out of poverty, restore balance to our ecosystems, and effectively combat climate change. We appreciate international funding for climate resilience. However, the burdensome requirements make it inaccessible. Financing tailored to special circumstances of SIDS is critical for effective climate action. The SDGs represent our vision of a world free from poverty and conflict. However, global progress is falling short, with only 15% of the targets on track and 37% regressing. The reality is particularly challenging for small island states with limited resources. World leaders need to take decisive action, and corporate leaders need to integrate sustainability into their business practices. Despite our challenges, we have made significant strides in accelerating sustainable development, and education has always been a top priority, and we have successfully improved access to education and vocational training by implementing online learning options for students in rural areas and expanding vocational programs. To address food security and combat NCDs, we have launched Kaledang Aralet, Our Food is Our Responsibility, the initiative which aims to boost domestic food production and reduce food imports from 80 to 60% by 2030. Additionally, we are building a national fishing port to support fisheries, maximize the value of our tuna fisheries, and foster a thriving, sustainable blue economy. Building our protected areas network and our Palau National Marine Sanctuary, we are implementing a multi-sectoral marine spatial planning approach to achieve 100% effective ocean management, prioritizing conservation of domestic fishing zones and tourism sites based on science, data, and traditional knowledge. Aligning with the goal of 30 by 30, we are collaborating with other Pacific islands and partners to discuss a regional ocean protection and production measures, recognizing the power of collective action, the Unlocking Blue Pacific Prosperity, which was launched at COP28, which aims to create a regional movement that promotes 100% effective ocean management, resilient food systems, and sustainable financing for development. Investments are underway, and we call for even greater investments to ensure its full potential is realized. As a big ocean state, we are deeply connected to the ocean. A healthy ocean means a healthy planet. And now more than ever, we must resist the temptation to rush into deep seabed mining, which threatens irreparable harm to our ocean, and the technologies heralded as part of the green transition must not turn our largest carbon sink, the ocean, into a casualty of short-sighted greed. If we can send people to space, surely we can innovate to meet our energy needs without exploiting the seabed and engaging in other destructive practices. We acknowledge Taiwan's valuable contribution to global sustainable development and technical cooperation. The irony of this year's UN General Assembly's theme, leaving no one behind, is starkly evident.
I thank the President of the Republic of Palau. I invite His Excellency Fare Eswatini Nasinga, President of the Tongolese Republic, to address the Assembly.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Secrétaire général des Nations unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs, il y a 8 décennies, quand l'institution qui nous accueille a été créée, le monde sortait du second conflit mondial et l'avenir était résolument perçu comme positif. Aujourd'hui, les crises complexes que connaît notre planète nous obligent à repenser notre modèle de développement et de coopération internationale. Si nous restons passifs, ces crises et ces modèles pourraient entraîner notre planète vers un futur sombre. Saisissons donc l'opportunité qui nous est donnée ici de changer de cap. Ma première affirmation est qu'à des crises systémiques, il faut des réponses globales. D'une part, les défis alimentaires, sécuritaires ou écologiques actuels dépassent ce que chaque pays est capable de gérer efficacement à lui seul. Et d'autre part, le caractère enchevêtré de ces crises complexes en fait des crises asymétriques. En effet, elles impactent parfois rapidement et durement des régions du monde parfois peu concernées par leur cause. C'est pourquoi je redis ici ma conviction profonde. Face à ces menaces globales, il n'y a d'avenir meilleur que pour les générations actuelles et futures que dans l'action collective et coordonnée de nos États. Et cette action collective doit se mener à l'intérieur de cadres politiques mondiaux rénovés. Car le multilatéralisme lui-même doit être repensé. La gouvernance de nos institutions mondiales est à de nombreux égards obsolète. Et nos discussions, comme nos engagements multilatéraux, ont montré leurs limites. Pour trouver des solutions réellement efficaces, un nouveau modèle de coopération internationale s'impose. À ce stade, permettez-moi de dire quelques mots de l'Afrique. Pour regarder l'avenir, il faut regarder vers l'Afrique. L'Afrique va continuer à abriter la plus grande partie de la jeunesse mondiale. C'est là qu'il y a le potentiel de développement de marchés le plus fort, notamment les nouveaux marchés du futur liés à l'économie verte ou bleue. C'est aussi là que nous devons expérimenter de nouveaux modèles de partenariat multipartites pour le développement, et notamment avec le secteur privé. Ils sont décisifs pour que nos actions aujourd'hui aient un impact positif et durable. En Afrique comme ailleurs, je pense que l'État doit jouer un rôle central de coordination. Pourquoi? D'abord parce que l'État est le seul garant de l'intérêt de la population tout entière, et aussi parce qu'il est le seul à jouer un rôle visionnaire et protecteur pour les générations actuelles et futures. Au Togo, nous nous efforçons de bâtir un État fort. Nous voyons cet État au centre de toute solution d'aide au développement et humanitaire, en collaboration avec le secteur privé et la société civile. Je constate que malgré les efforts de ces dernières années, l'aide internationale reste trop souvent déconnectée tant des besoins que des capacités des populations qui en bénéficient. C'est pourquoi il faut renforcer le rôle des États africains dans l'aide au développement comme partenaires réellement stratégiques et équitables. La relocalisation des efforts de développement est essentielle et doit être plus profonde. Elle doit être financière mais aussi politique. Enfin, il faut davantage de respect et de représentation pour les États africains sur la scène internationale. Pour que les solutions multilatérales soient véritablement inclusives, elles doivent respecter la dignité et l'égalité de représentation de nos peuples. Nous ne pouvons construire un avenir meilleur que si toutes les voix sont entendues et respectées. C'est aussi cela, ne laisser personne de côté. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, mon pays est prêt à jouer pleinement son rôle dans ce vaste effort collectif pour façonner un avenir meilleur. Nous croyons que c'est en travaillant ensemble, dans un esprit de solidarité et de respect mutuel, que nous parviendrons à relever les défis de notre époque et à offrir à nos enfants un monde plus juste, plus prospère et plus durable. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
I thank the President of the Togolese Republic. I invite His Excellency Thiemoko Melie Kone, Vice President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, to address.
Monsieur le Président de l'Assemblée générale, Monsieur le Secrétaire général, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais, au nom de Son Excellence Monsieur Alassane Ouattara, Président de la République de Côte d'Ivoire, vous féliciter pour la tenue opportune de ce sommet. L'ampleur de notre mobilisation témoigne de la juste compréhension des enjeux de ce sommet qui marque un tournant historique dans nos efforts pour refonder notre planète. La paix et la sécurité internationale sont gravement menacées avec des guerres qui n'épargnent aucun continent. Les conséquences humaines et matérielles de ce conflit sont effroyables. et aucune solution durable ne semble envisageable. Ces conflits compromettent la cause de la paix, aggravent la faim et la pauvreté et assombrissent l'avenir d'une grande partie de l'humanité confrontée à une faible mobilisation de ressources destinées au financement des objectifs de développement durable. Face à ces défis qui menacent gravement l'avenir du monde, la Côte d'Ivoire réaffirme son appel à une plus grande solidarité entre les nations et à un financement plus adéquat du programme 2030 et de l'agenda 2063 de l'Union africaine. Dans cet esprit, mon pays se réjouit de l'élan de solidarité qui a permis l'adoption des documents ambitieux de notre sommet, à savoir le pacte pour le futur et ses annexes. Notre grande attente est que ce pacte favorise l'avènement d'un monde juste et durable à travers des actions concrètes et déterminées. Nous devons par conséquent tout mettre en œuvre pour rétablir la paix partout où les conflits sévissent. Je me réjouis du soutien apporté aux initiatives du secrétaire général des Nations Unies ainsi que de la priorité accordée à la prévention de toutes les formes de violence et de menaces sécuritaires, de même que le règlement pacifique des différends. Monsieur le Président, dans les domaines de la science, de la technologie, de l'innovation et de la coopération numérique, nous devons intensifier la coopération multipartite et les partenariats pour renforcer les capacités, transférer les technologies et mobiliser les ressources financières nécessaires afin de faciliter l'accès aux opportunités offertes par la science et la technologie, de stimuler l'innovation, de réduire la fracture numérique et améliorer la gouvernance des technologies émergentes, en particulier l'intelligence artificielle. Le pacte numérique que nous venons d'adopter s'inscrit dans cette dynamique et permettra, nous en sommes convaincus, d'aborder de manière spécifique ces enjeux fondamentaux. S'agissant des jeunes et des générations futures, la promotion d'une éducation de qualité, l'inclusion sociale et la représentation des jeunes dans les instances décisionnelles sont primordiales. Elles feront d'eux des agents de développement pour l'édification et la transformation des sociétés modèles. Enfin, une gouvernance mondiale plus juste, plus représentative et plus inclusive est plus que jamais nécessaire. À cet effet, le multilatéralisme qui doit être revitalisé pour encourager une coopération internationale plus étroite et plus efficace. L'heure est donc venue d'adapter les institutions financières internationales et la gouvernance mondiale aux réalités actuelles, tout en veillant à accorder une attention particulière à la modernisation des Nations Unies, notamment à la réforme du Conseil de sécurité. Monsieur le Président, la Côte d'Ivoire fonde un réel espoir à la mise en œuvre effective des recommandations de ce sommet, dans l'intérêt des jeunes générations et pour un avenir de paix et de prospérité pour tous. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank the President. As the Vice President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, I now invite His Excellency Teodoro Obiang Nguema Umbasoko, Vice President in charge of National Defense and State Security of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, to address the Assembly.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Toma la palabra en nombre y representación de Su Excelencia Obiang Nguema, presidente de la República de Guinea Ecuatorial. Para antes, felicitar al secretario general y al presidente de la Asamblea General por esta iniciativa de convocar esta cumbre del futuro, en la que vamos a adoptar el Pacto del Futuro. Tenemos hoy la oportunidad de reunirnos en un momento crucial de nuestra historia y en un momento en el que las decisiones que tomamos en el marco de este pacto definirán el futuro de nuestras naciones y de la comunidad internacional en general. Señor presidente, a nuestro entender,
Es poco probable alcanzar el futuro que todos aspiramos si no tomamos en cuenta el papel crucial de África, con su rica diversidad y vastos recursos. África representa tanto un desafío como una oportunidad en esta búsqueda de un futuro basado en la paz y seguridad. El silencio de las armas, el multilateralismo, la inclusividad, la financiación de un desarrollo sostenible, inclusivo y equitativo, asegurando que ningún país se quede detrás. Para ello, necesitamos un compromiso renovado para movilizar recursos financieros, tanto públicos como privados, y dirigirlos hacia proyectos que promuevan la sostenibilidad ambiental, la erradicación de la pobreza y la creación de empleo. La cooperación internacional es esencial para construir infraestructuras resilientes y sostenibles que beneficien a todas las generaciones. No puede haber un futuro mejor si no combatimos las injerencias, las sanciones y demás medidas coercitivas unilaterales, el racismo, las tentativas de desestabilización, las actuaciones neocolonialistas y mecanismos similares, así como las presiones y bloqueos que no hacen más que obstaculizar el desarrollo de otros países y regiones, sobre todo el sur global. Señor Presidente, este pacto del futuro que vamos a adoptar debe descansar sobre los hombros de nuestros jóvenes. Ellos son el futuro de nuestras naciones y, por tanto, debemos invertir en su educación, salud y bienestar, empoderándolos para que sean agentes del cambio. En conclusión, la cumbre del futuro es una oportunidad para renovar nuestros compromisos con los principios de la Carta de las Naciones Unidas y para trabajar juntos hacia un mundo más pacífico, próspero y seguro. Guinea Ecuatorial apela a todos los países, tanto del norte global como del sur global, para que unamos nuestras fuerzas y construyamos un futuro en el que cada persona, sin importar su origen, raza, género o credo, pueda vivir con dignidad y esperanza. Muchas gracias.
I thank the Vice President in charge of National Defense and State Security of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. May I now invite His Excellency Charlotte Salvai Tabimasmas, Prime Minister of the Republic of Vanuatu, on behalf of the Pacific Small Island Developing States.
Mr. President, Excellencies, Head of the States and Governments, Mr. Secretary General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to deliver this statement as the Chair of the Pacific Small Island Development States represented in New York. We align ourselves with the statement delivered by Uganda on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, Samoa on behalf of AOCs, and Tonga on behalf of the Pacific Island Forum. We are on the front line of the climate crisis. The lives, livelihoods, security and well-being of our people are threatened by the rising tides of inactions. We are here today to merely exchange words, but to forge a pact for the future, a pact that will determine the fate of our planet and the lives of the generation yet unborn. Excellencies, proceeds endorse the intended outcomes of this summit. We understand that the Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact are more than just a document. They are a blueprint for a world which is equitable, sustainable, and resilient. These frameworks demand transformative multilateralism, urgent climate actions,
and the responsible use of digital technology. The stakes could not be higher. As a small island developing state, we confront the devastating impact of climate change every day. Rising sea levels, intensified natural disasters, and the erosion of our ecosystem are our daily reality. We must act now. The commitment outlined in the Pact for the Future and the Declaration on our future generations compel us to ensure that our action today do not compromise the rights and well-being of those who will inherit this planet. We must confront the cause and impact of climate change head-on, scaling our efforts to protect the environment and accelerate our transition to a sustainable future. Excellencies, outcome of the COP28 and anticipated decisions at COP29 are pivotal in this endeavor. We reaffirm the critical need to accelerate climate action during this decisive decade, reflecting equity, the principle of our common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities. We welcome the call on climate finance, starting on a flow of US $100 billion per year, with a focus on the needs of developing countries. As nations disproportionately impacted by climate change, the PCID urges the international community to close the adaptation finance gap that severely affects the developing countries, particularly small island developing states. Moreover, we emphasize the necessity of enhancing international cooperation and support to inspire greater ambition in the next round of nationally German contribution. We must urgently accelerate the development, transfer, and deployment of renewable energy technology. Excellencies, climate change is more merely an environmental issue. It is a security issue that exacerbates social tensions, economic security, and humanitarian disaster. We must integrate climate change into peace operation mandates and ensure comprehensive risk assessment that address the needs of vulnerable groups, including women, children, and indigenous people. We all recognize the transformative potential of digital technologies, as outlined in the Global Digital Compact. However, this potential can only be realized if we bridge the profound digital divides that exist between our countries. Our digital future must be inclusive, safe, secure, and empowering all people to participate fully in the digital economy and society. We must harness digital technology to advance sustainable development, protect human rights, and ensure that no one is left behind. Let us remember the future we want within our grasp, but only if we have the courage to seize it. The Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact offer us pathways grounded in solidarity, hope, equity, and justice to create a world where all people can thrive in peace, prosperity. We stand ready to work with all nations to turn these commitments into action to protect our planet and secure a brighter future for all. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Vanuatu. Now I invite His Excellency Irakli Kobakidze, Prime Minister of Georgia, to address the Assembly.
Dear Mr. President, esteemed guests, 3 years ago, in our common agenda, the Secretary General proposed a summit of the future, aiming to promote a new global consensus on delivering a better present and safeguarding the future for generations to come. Today, that vision is realized as we gather, united in our commitment to rebuild trust and seek multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. In today's increasingly complex and rapidly evolving world, achieving a fairer future is more pressing than ever. We face unprecedented challenges, from the lingering effects of the pandemic to persistent conflicts and deepening socioeconomic disparities, humanitarian crisis, and the escalating threat of climate change. As a result, the world is not on track to meet the goals we have set for ourselves. The Secretary General's recent report on progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals shows that only 17% of SDG targets are on course to be achieved. In the light of these overwhelming global issues, this summit presents a unique opportunity to demonstrate the power of effective global cooperation and multilateralism. Its outcomes will significantly advance the 2030 agenda aligned with the declaration of the SDG Summit. At this crucial moment, Georgia stands ready to unite with the international community in this shared endeavor. The Pact of the Future offers us a chance to transform the success of this summit into meaningful, lasting transformation. It sets out a more effective course leading to specific and sustainable progress for future generations. In this spirit, we welcome the adoption of the Pact, including the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on Future Generations annexed to the Pact, and we look forward to its swift implementation. It is clear that peace and security are the foundations of human rights and sustainable development. In a world marred by conflicts, aggressions, and forced displacement, the Pact represents a crucial path forward, promoting global peace and security through adherence to the UN Charter and international law, strengthening accountability, and ending impunity. By following this path, we will uphold human rights and achieve sustainable development. In our digitized world, where technology presents both tremendous opportunities and challenges, the Global Digital Compact should serve as a roadmap towards an open, secure, and inclusive digital future. Global digital cooperation is key to leveraging the advantages of cutting-edge technologies, promoting human rights online and offline, and eliminating the risks posed by the misuse of technology. We believe it's essential to incorporate the viewpoints of future generations into our policy frameworks, ensuring that the long-term impacts of our actions are considered. The Declaration on Future Generations is a crucial tool for ensuring that their voices are heard and their concerns are addressed in shaping a sustainable future. The Summit of the Future has provided a vital platform for fostering international cooperation and solidarity. As we move forward, the real challenge will be translating our commitments into tangible actions through the effective implementation of the Pact. Let us sustain this momentum and work together to build a better tomorrow where the values of this organization are fully respected and upheld. Thank you very much.
Thank the Prime Minister of Georgia. I now invite Her Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy, to address the Assembly.
Signor Segretario Generale, cari colleghi delegati, il patto che abbiamo sottoscritto è il frutto di un articolato processo negoziale per il quale ci tengo a ringraziare il Presidente dell'Assemblea Generale, i negoziatori e ovviamente tutti gli Stati membri. E la fase che si apre ora, quella dell'attuazione, è chiaramente più complessa ma decisamente più decisiva. Le sfide che la storia ci ha messo di fronte sono sfide numerose e multiformi: il cambiamento climatico, le disuguaglianze sociali ed economiche, le crisi umanitarie e sanitarie, la criminalità transnazionale, i conflitti armati a partire dalla inaccettabile guerra di aggressione russa nei confronti di una nazione sovrana come l'Ucraina, che rendono sempre più precaria la sicurezza internazionale. Di fronte a uno scenario così complesso noi non abbiamo altra scelta che quella di agire. Penso che sia evidente a tutti che viviamo in un tempo di crisi. Però le crisi nascondono sempre anche un'opportunità. Del resto la parola crisi deriva dal greco krisis, che significa scelta, decisione. Le crisi costringono a mettersi in discussione, costringono a schierarsi, non consentono di tentennare. Sappiamo tutti che nessuno Stato può efficacemente governare da solo le sfide di questo tempo. Per questo l'Italia è una convinta sostenitrice del multilateralismo e della sua istituzione più rappresentativa, che sono le Nazioni Unite, il luogo nel quale ogni voce viene ascoltata, il luogo nel quale siamo chiamati a imparare, a capirci e a rispettarci. Chiaramente ogni organizzazione è efficace se le sue regole sono regole giuste e condivise. Per questo noi siamo convinti che qualsiasi revisione della governance delle Nazioni Unite, particolarmente per quello che riguarda il Consiglio di sicurezza, non possa prescindere dai principi di eguaglianza, democraticità, rappresentatività. La riforma ha un senso se viene fatta per tutti e non solamente per alcuni. Non ci interessa creare nuove gerarchie e non crediamo che esistano nazioni di serie A e nazioni di serie B. Esistono le nazioni, con le loro storie, con le loro peculiarità e con i loro cittadini che hanno tutti gli stessi diritti, perché gli individui nascono tutti liberi e uguali. Significa anche che dobbiamo pensare in modo nuovo la cooperazione tra le nazioni. L'Italia lo ha fatto, per esempio, con il piano Mattei per l'Africa, un piano di investimenti pensato per cooperare con le nazioni africane attraverso un approccio che non è né paternalistico, né caritatevole, né predatorio, ma basato sul rispetto e sul diritto per ciascuno di poter competere ad armi pari. È la nostra ricetta per promuovere lo sviluppo di un continente troppo spesso sottovalutato, per costruirne la stabilità e garantire finalmente un diritto che fino ad oggi è stato negato a troppi giovani, che è il diritto a non dover emigrare. E quando parliamo di sviluppo non possiamo non occuparci delle nuove frontiere del progresso tecnologico, a partire dall'intelligenza artificiale generativa, un fenomeno del quale, consentitemi, temo che non si abbia ancora sufficiente consapevolezza. L'intelligenza artificiale è soprattutto un grande moltiplicatore, ma la domanda alla quale noi dobbiamo rispondere è: che cosa vogliamo moltiplicare? Per capirci, se questo moltiplicatore venisse utilizzato per curare malattie che oggi sono incurabili, allora quel moltiplicatore concorrerebbe al bene comune. Ma se invece quel moltiplicatore venisse utilizzato per divaricare ulteriormente gli equilibri globali, allora gli scenari sarebbero potenzialmente catastrofici. Le macchine non risponderanno a questa domanda. Noi possiamo farlo, la politica deve farlo, ed è la politica che deve garantire che l'intelligenza artificiale rimanga controllata dall'uomo e mantenga l'uomo al centro. Sono tutte materie che affrontiamo in questo patto e sono tutte materie che l'Italia ha voluto porre al centro dell'agenda del suo anno di presidenza del G7. Eccolo il ruolo del multilateralismo. Non un club nel quale incontrarsi per scrivere inutili documenti zeppi di buoni propositi, ma il luogo nel quale si devono fare i conti con l'urgenza delle decisioni, il luogo nel quale le idee devono...
I thank the President of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy. I now invite His Excellency Andrej Plenković, Prime Minister of the Republic of Croatia, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, we have gathered here today driven by a common purpose, concern for the present and a commitment to shaping a better future. This summit is crucial because the choices we make now will define the world for future generations. I thank Germany and Namibia, alongside Sweden, Zambia, Jamaica and the Netherlands, for their leadership in guiding this essential global dialogue. Today, the world faces an alarming surge in conflicts. The cooperative spirit that has long underpinned international relations, embodied by the United Nations, is under severe strain. The Russian aggression against Ukraine, the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza and wider, as well as other global hostilities, are existential threats to global peace, security and humanity. These challenges do not affect just one region. They endanger us all. In these turbulent times, restoring trust and solidarity among nations is not merely desirable, it is imperative. Croatia understands this deeply. 30 years ago, much like Ukraine today, we were a nation ravaged by war, defending our sovereignty against a far more powerful aggressor. Today, Croatia stands as a proud member of both NATO and the European Union. Our painful history has shaped Croatia's resilience and provided us with a unique understanding of the challenges that come with conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the myriad challenges we face, we must prioritize sustainable development as a foundation for global peace and security. Sustainable development is not just an aspiration, it is essential for stability. To achieve this, we must foster global solidarity and urgently reform the international financial architecture to support these goals. Croatia firmly believes that effective multilateralism, rooted in respect for international law, the UN Charter, and genuine partnership is the way forward. Only through a unified approach, combining security, development, and human rights, can we ensure prosperity for all. Croatia's experience as a chair of the Peacebuilding Commission last year and our efforts in peacebuilding are now integral to the global peace framework. This is our legacy. We are also committed to the efficient implementation of the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals. I am proud to say that Croatia currently ranks 8th out of 193 countries in Sustainable Development Goals implementation. This achievement reflects our commitment to sustainable growth and positions Croatia as a model how even smaller nations can lead by example. We continue to advance 3 key processes: digital transformation, demographic renewal, and decarbonization. These priorities, embedded in our national policies, drive our growth while ensuring sustainability. Croatia's forward-looking vision balances economic progress with social responsibility. Looking ahead, I see 3 critical areas that require our collective attention. First, conflict prevention is more urgent than ever. Our experience in Croatia reminds us of the importance of early action and diplomacy to avoid unnecessary suffering. Second, we must not waver in our commitment to sustainable development. Climate action, protecting biodiversity and reversing environmental degradation are essential for our survival. Third, we must strive for a more equitable and inclusive global governance system. International institutions must evolve to be more representative, promoting human rights and social development that reflect the diversity of the world's nations. The outcome of this summit provides us with a clear roadmap. Now it is up to us to turn these plans into reality. The time to act is now. Croatia stands ready to contribute our joint effort of a more just, peaceful, and sustainable global order. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Croatia. I now invite His Excellency Jonas Gahr Støre, Prime Minister of Norway, to address the Assembly.
With so much dividing us and with so many wars going on, I think we can salute yesterday's agreement and that we came together and be able to agree on ambitious targets. The Pact for the Future provides a vision for this across all the UN's 3 main pillars. That should be saluted. Let me highlight 3 points from the Norwegian perspective, Mr. President. First, we have reaffirmed our commitment to international law, including human rights. The disregard for human life and international law that we are seeing today must not be allowed to continue. Universally agreed rules and rights remain an indispensable foundation for a peaceful, prosperous and just world. Those who deliberately breach it must be held accountable. Second, we urgently need to address climate change, cut emissions, transform our energy systems and protect the environment. We must deliver on our pledges. We stand firmly by agreed commitments and keep our ambitions high. We need to close the extensive financing gap to achieve the SDGs, leaving no one behind. This includes increasing climate finance and investments. Together with Mexico, Nepal and Zambia, Norway will serve as co-facilitator for the next conference on financing for development. We are committed to working with all member states to achieve an ambitious outcome in Seville this year. Mr. Chairman, our pact rightfully addresses the need to provide sufficient and timely debt relief to countries in debt distress, to reform the multilateral banks and to promote more inclusive and effective tax cooperation. Norway will continue to engage in an active and constructive manner to develop a UN framework convention on international tax cooperation. We must work towards an inclusive, open and secure digital future for all. It's part of our dialogue here at the UN today. Accessibility is key, particularly for the least developed countries. Some 2.6 billion people remain excluded from the digital world. For too many people also, they lack access to electricity. Norway supports and actively promotes the initiative by the World Bank and the African Development Bank, the Mission 300, to provide 300 million people in Africa with electricity by the end of this decade. Norway is committed to bridging the digital divide. Our efforts include advancing digital public goods and ensuring digital ID access for all. We also urge stronger cooperation among the large states on a safe artificial intelligence regulation that will give us the opportunities of this technology and limit the threats. Thirdly, Mr. President, sustainable development cannot be achieved without peace and security. It almost goes without saying. Preventive diplomacy and peace building must be at the center of our efforts. It is essential to ensure women's participation in all aspects of the peace and security agenda. There are powerful decisions made here by the UN on this issue earlier. It should be highlighted again. We need a more transparent, inclusive and effective Security Council with greater limitations to the use of veto. We need to address the historical injustice against Africa and improve the representation of underrepresented regions. The General Assembly plays a vital role in maintaining international peace and security in close cooperation with the Security Council. Mr. President, we should expect from the Security Council that it can get its act together and end the war of aggression that Russia is conducting against Ukraine, and to weigh in and help end the escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, and to work towards a two-state solution, giving the Palestinians their right of a state, and a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in peace. The solutions can only be found in close cooperation with other stakeholders, also in the civil and private sector. So, friends and colleagues, a lot to be done. The Pact for the Future is a commitment to one another, to future generations, providing a roadmap for building a better world. Now that work putting the pact into action begins, and Norway is eager to get started. Thank you, Mr. President.
To thank the Prime Minister of Norway. Now I invite His Excellency John Basilio, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment of Belize, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the adoption of the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations must not be seen as an end, but rather as a beginning. While these outcomes lay a foundation for action, they represent only a floor for a much greater ambition that is needed to transform our world for present and future generations. The world faces a triple planetary crisis and a development crisis. Human and planetary capacities are approaching limits from which there may be no rebound. Our development and climate goals are slipping further away from our reach, and yet there has been no effective global response. To say we will do what we have failed to do will not suffice. Since the adoption of the Paris Agreement, every year has seen record-breaking climate impacts. For the first time, over a 12-month period spanning February 2023 to January 2024, global warming exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. If that trend persists, then Paris alone will not be enough, nor will our promise to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. These are unprecedented times. They demand unprecedented action across whole systems at all levels and at all times, guided by values and principles we espouse as a United Nations. We must ensure the dignity of people. We need to reimagine and remake this world into one that is just, secure, and that will endure, one in which every voice matters. Bringing the voices from the margins to the center, the voices of young people, women, indigenous people, and the voices of countries like my own, the small island developing states. They should benchmark our collective ambition, because a better tomorrow can only be realized if solutions respond to the most urgent of needs, their needs. In Belize, the youth are calling for opportunities to harness individual and technological potential. They need sustained investments in good, decent education, comprehensive health care, and a greener and bluer economy that targets support for micro, small, and medium enterprises and startups. We can go faster with international support, but that support must be tailored to the unique characteristics of small island developing states. The Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS is a forward-looking blueprint for resilient prosperity. It defines our vision and what the international community can do to help us achieve that vision. My country, like other small island developing states, still lack representation where decisions are being made on our behalf. As a placebo, we may be given the privilege for a 5-minute intervention on a matter that will have consequential impacts on our future. Likewise, the international financial architecture, even in its current phase of reform, is built on a foundation of a bygone era. The dynamics of power are ever-changing. We need to build these institutions to be effective well into the future. Excellencies, today I affirm Belize's unwavering commitment to achieve the SDGs. They are the only ambitious, universally agreed blueprint to achieve a sustainable and equitable future for all. Let us then push harder for justice, go deeper for change, and make our actions meaningful for everyone. More than an opportunity, the Summit of the Future is a challenge. Let us rise up to that challenge, go beyond the confines of our present context, be bold in our vision, and embrace a much greater ambition for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment of Belize. I now invite His Excellency Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, to address the Assembly.
President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is particularly significant for me to take part in this Summit of the Future because I have received my current mandate of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia in the parliamentary elections under the slogan of our party, "There is a future." All the problems we are facing today are directly or indirectly related to the decisions made or haven't been made at some point in the past, and the same we can say about all the successes and achievements of today. We cannot change the past. We cannot change a lot even today, because today is to some extent a part of the past. But shaping the future is today's most important task. The agenda of our actions is also known: peace, security, prosperity, freedom, justice, human rights, artificial intelligence, climate change. But what is of high importance is the concept that we should put in the basis of our vision of the future, and consequently how to build the future. It may sound strange, but the most important thing we can do for the future is to create positive narratives and focus on the possibilities of creating the foundations for them, regardless of whether they exist at the moment or not. One of the reasons for today's global crisis is that international formats have long become an arena for mutual accusations, threats, and the places where crises and deadlocks take place or being announced. I can hardly remember a positive speech on behalf either of myself or other leaders on international platforms, and there are objective reasons for this. There is little material for positive discourse, and maybe it's because in the past there was very little or there was no any positive narrative at all. We usually come to UN to declare how bad it is going to be, because the facts proving this are a lot and everywhere. So it doesn't require much effort to see them. Effort should be made to see the prerequisite of a good future and think about them, because what happens in reality first happens in our minds. My party adopted the slogan, "There is a future," under the conditions when it seemed that there was no hope for optimism in our region. Now this happens globally, and at the Summit of the Future, I want to voice that belief of there is a future, and by doing this, I want to have my portion of contribution. Unlike the previous 3 times, this year at the General Assembly, I will more concentrate on opportunities rather than accusing neighboring countries in my speech. And this will provide room for positive thinking and for talking about the possibilities. Yes, for now, let's only talk, since in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Therefore, it is necessary to start with the good words. It is necessary to bring forward the slogan, "There is a future," as a theorem, and to work to prove it. Let's do it. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Now I invite His Excellency Luc Frieden, Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, to address the Assembly.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur le Secrétaire général, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est un honneur de m'adresser pour la première fois aux Nations Unies en tant que Premier ministre du Luxembourg à l'occasion de ce sommet de l'avenir. Le Luxembourg est bien placé pour savoir qu'aucun pays, quelle que soit sa taille, n'est à même de relever à lui seul les défis qui se pose. C'est ce constat qui fonde notre engagement multilatéral. Nous étions présents lors de la signature de la Charte des Nations Unies à San Francisco parce que le peuple luxembourgeois, comme tous les peuples des Nations Unies, était résolu à préserver les générations futures du fléau de la guerre, comme le dit si bien le préambule de la Charte. Aujourd'hui, hélas, le fléau de la guerre affecte toujours les peuples de par le monde. Je pense au peuple d'Ukraine, qui se défend avec un courage exceptionnel contre la guerre d'agression lancée par le président russe. Je pense au peuple en proie au conflit au Moyen-Orient. Je pense aux peuples africains, au Soudan, au Sahel et ailleurs, meurtris par les guerres, l'insécurité et le terrorisme. L'ordre international, fondé sur la règle de droit, est en crise. Les violations flagrantes de la Charte et du droit international humanitaire se multiplient. Les objectifs de développement durable paraissent pour beaucoup hors de portée. Face à cette réalité, il n'y a pas de remède miracle, pas de solution unique. Il n'y a que l'engagement qui compte, l'engagement concret, jour après jour. Monsieur le Président, il est évident que nous devons passer des mots à l'action, plus efficace sur la réforme des Nations Unies. Le Conseil de sécurité doit devenir plus représentatif, plus redevable à l'égard de l'ensemble des États membres. L'expérience montre que les États élus au Conseil de sécurité peuvent faire la différence en apportant d'autres perspectives, en particulier quand les membres permanents sont divisés. Le Luxembourg l'a prouvé par le passé et nous espérons pouvoir de nouveau le prouver si nous sommes élus au Conseil pour le mandat 2031. Renforçons davantage le rôle de cette Assemblée générale, en particulier quand le Conseil de sécurité est bloqué par le veto. Il est aussi évident que l'architecture financière mondiale doit être réformée, car elle n'est pas à la hauteur des défis d'aujourd'hui et notamment des besoins des pays en voie de développement. Pour le Luxembourg, le développement, la sécurité et les droits de l'homme doivent aller de pair. Le Luxembourg s'engage pour promouvoir les droits humains et le droit international. C'est aussi notre priorité en tant que membre du Conseil des droits de l'homme. Le Luxembourg continue aussi de tenir son engagement en matière d'aide publique au développement en y consacrant chaque année 1% de son revenu national brut. Nous continuons de tenir notre engagement aussi en matière de financement climatique qui pour nous s'ajoute à notre aide publique au développement. Nous continuons de soutenir la mobilisation des financements privés grâce à l'expertise de notre place financière et notamment de la Bourse du Luxembourg. Monsieur le Président, le Luxembourg salue l'adoption du pacte pour l'avenir hier matin et félicite l'Allemagne et la Namibie pour avoir facilité les négociations avec succès. Mais ce moment me rappelle aussi les mots d'un de mes prédécesseurs, le Premier ministre Joseph Bech, qui fut présent lors de la conférence de San Francisco. En ces mots, ce n'est pas la révision de telle ou telle disposition de la Charte, mais bien la révision de l'esprit dont nous l'animons qui nous sauvera. Plus que les mots sur lesquels nous avons trouvé un accord, à San Francisco ou hier, c'est le sentiment de confiance mutuelle qui devra animer nos actions dans les années à venir. Je vous remercie.
I thank the Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Now invite His Excellency Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of India, to address the Assembly.
Excellencies, विश्व के सबसे बड़े लोकतंत्र भारत की ओर से और 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की ओर से आप सभी को नमस्कार। जून में अभी अभी मानव इतिहास के सबसे बड़े चुनावों में भारत के लोगों ने मुझे लगातार तीसरी बार सेवा का अवसर दिया है और आज मैं इसी 1/6 ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी की आवाज आप तक पहुंचाने यहां आया हूं। फ्रेंड्स, जब हम ग्लोबल फ्यूचर की बात कर रहे हैं तो ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक अप्रोच सर्वप्रथम होनी चाहिए। सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को प्राथमिकता देते हुए हमें मानव कल्याण, फूड, हेल्थ सिक्योरिटी यह भी सुनिश्चित करनी होगी। भारत में 250 मिलियन लोगों को गरीबी से बाहर निकालकर हमने यह दिखाया है कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट कैन बी सक्सेसफुल। सक्सेस का हमारा यह अनुभव हम ग्लोबल साउथ के साथ साझा करने के लिए तैयार है। फ्रेंड्स, success of humanity lies in our collective strength, not in the battlefield. और वैश्विक शांति एवं विकास के लिए ग्लोबल संस्थाओं में रिफॉर्म्स आवश्यक है। रिफॉर्म इज द की टू रिलेवेंस। अफ्रीकन यूनियन को नई दिल्ली समिट में G20 की स्थायी सदस्यता इसी दिशा में एक महत्वपूर्ण कदम था। वैश्विक शांति और सुरक्षा के लिए एक तरफ आतंकवाद जैसा बड़ा खतरा है तो दूसरी तरफ साइबर, मैरीटाइम, स्पेस जैसे अनेक संघर्ष के नए नए मैदान भी बन रहे हैं। इन सभी विषयों पर मैं जोर देकर कहूंगा कि ग्लोबल एक्शन मस्ट मैच ग्लोबल एम्बिशन। फ्रेंड्स, टेक्नोलॉजी के सेफ और रिस्पॉन्सिबल यूज के लिए बैलेंस रेगुलेशन की आवश्यकता है। हमें ऐसी ग्लोबल डिजिटल गवर्नेंस चाहिए जिसमें राष्ट्रीय संप्रभुता और अखंडता अक्षुण्ण रहे। डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर शुड बी ए ब्रिज, नॉट अ बैरियर। ग्लोबल गुड के लिए भारत अपना डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पूरे विश्व से साझा करने के लिए तैयार है। फ्रेंड्स, भारत के लिए वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर एक कमिटमेंट है। यही कमिटमेंट हमारे वन अर्थ, वन हेल्थ और वन सन, वन वर्ल्ड, वन ग्रिड जैसे इनिशिएटिव्स में भी दिखाई देता है। पूरी मानवता के हितों की रक्षा और वैश्विक समृद्धि के लिए भारत मनसा वाचा कर्मणा से काम करता रहेगा। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank the Prime Minister of India. Now I invite His Excellency Russell Miso Lamini, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini, to address the Assembly.
co-chairs of the Summit of the Future, Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor to address the Summit of the Future on behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, where the world leaders have gathered to commit to multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. This summit is an opportunity to take bold actions that will shape the future of our planet and the well-being of generations to come. We commend the co-facilitators of the outcome documents, the Pact for the Future, Global Digital Compact, and Pact on Future Generations for their stellar work. Humanity faces unprecedented global challenges, from poverty and inequality to climate change and technological transformation. No single nation can tackle these challenges alone. The Global Pact for the Future calls for a renewed, inclusive, equitable, and responsive multilateral system. Eswatini, along with other African nations, has long called for reforms to the United Nations to create a more inclusive and representative global governance system. The Eswatini consensus remains a cornerstone for this call. The current structure of the Security Council does not reflect modern geopolitical realities, particularly the underrepresentation of Africa. Expanding the Security Council to include permanent representation for Africa and other marginalized regions is essential for maintaining its legitimacy and addressing global security challenges. This reform is critical to building trust in global institutions. Eswatini believes Taiwan must be included in the international system. Taiwan contributes significantly to global public health, economic development, and technological innovation. Excluding Taiwan limits global cooperation when it is most needed. We call for Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. The COVID-19 pandemic, economic shocks, and the climate crisis have exposed vulnerabilities in the international financial system. Many developing nations face unsustainable debt, limiting their investment in critical areas like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Eswatini calls for comprehensive debt restructuring and reforms to international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, ensuring that they respond to the needs of developing nations. Fairer access to financing for climate resilience and development is also crucial. Although Eswatini, like other developing countries, contributes little to the climate crisis, it is heavily impacted. While we have made significant improvements in disaster risk governance, urgent climate finance from developed nations is crucial to help mitigate and adapt to these effects. As we work to reduce emissions and meet our commitments, developing nations must continue to prioritize industrialization and energy security to achieve their development goals. Technological advancements create opportunities for development, but have also widened the digital divide. Eswatini recognizes the transformative potential of digital technologies, but urges technologically advanced nations to support affordable technology sharing with developing countries and address risks from emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. We must ensure technology becomes a tool for inclusion, not inequality. This summit presents a unique opportunity to rebuild trust in multilateral system. The crises we face require urgent coordination, international cooperation. In conclusion, the Summit of the Future offers an unparalleled opportunity to reshape the global system. We call reforms through the Eswatini consensus, equitable representation in decision-making forums, Taiwan's
Thank you, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini. I now invite His Excellency Gaston Alfonso Brown, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Corporate Governance, and Public-Private Partnerships of Antigua and Barbuda to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the multifaceted environmental, economic, health-related, and social emergencies we face are perhaps humanity's greatest existential challenges. The timing of this summit is critical as we confront these unprecedented global threats. Our decisions now impact not just us, but generations to come. Despite decades of UN-led sustainable development conferences, little has been accomplished to safeguard the rights of future generations. Whereas future generations are poised to inherit the greatest technological advancements, with unabated climate change, perhaps they will have no Earth to call home. Our planet is finite, but humans' current ambitions for unending economic profits and territorial expansion seemingly know no bounds. This unsustainable trajectory, marked by escalating climate impacts, environmental destruction, economic greed, wars, and threats of wars, poses an existential threat to all life on Earth. Temperature records are broken almost daily. Hurricanes, floods, and droughts ravage our lands, while mangroves and tropical forests, crucial to our planetary biodiversity and balance, are being obliterated. By making infinite demands on a finite planet, we are transforming our once hospitable home into a hostile environment. This is our moment to change course, to future-proof our burning planet from ultimate destruction. Who will compensate future generations for selfish acts? The principle that the polluters pay is meant to guide us, but in reality, it is the future that bears the greatest cost. The climate crisis neither affects everyone equally, nor is everyone equally responsible. We who have contributed least to the climate crisis are suffering its worst impacts. To add insult to injury, the large polluters are paying themselves hundreds of billions of dollars for carbon credits to protect their profligate use of fossil fuels at the expense of SIDS and other developing countries. Wealthy nations, disproportionately responsible for the climate crisis, must face the indisputable truth. They owe a debt to the world. The time for excuses is over. They must pay for their polluting, ecocidal thoughts against our planet and human civilization, and take immediate steps to slash emissions aggressively. These nations must aid in healing our environment, rebuilding homes, and transitioning from fossil fuel to cleaner, green energy alternatives. Wealthy polluters have driven climate change for far too long. It is time to hold them accountable. This is an ethical imperative that is necessary for our survival. Big Oil, hear this. Your days of exploiting the global South's natural resources are numbered. As we move to renewable energy, I reemphasize that rich industrialized nations must pay for the loss and damage that they have devastated our communities. And to the carbon billionaires, your profits must fuel a sustainable future, not your profligate lifestyles. Wealthy countries and the industrial giants must pay their dues and invest in a sustainable, equitable future for all. Excellencies, without a healthy planet, there can be no viable future for humanity. We are integral to the solution, yet we neglect our obligations as world leaders because of a globalized economy controlled by a self-interested minority. Bold new international agreements to end fossil fuel proliferation, innovative financial instruments, and advanced technology are urgently needed. The weight of history and the responsibility to the future rest upon our shoulders. Small island developing states met recently in Antigua and Barbuda and laid out the future that we want, the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS. It is time for the international community to be as bold as SIDS and to shift focus, not just to sustaining our damaged ecosystems, but also ensuring equity and fairness, providing climate and financial justice to all. I call upon leaders and policymakers to commit to an international financial architecture that bridges gaps, alleviates inequalities, and fosters sustainable development. Providing debt relief and access to finance should be based on countries' vulnerabilities
thank the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Corporate Governance, and Public-Private Partnership of Antigua and Barbuda. I now invite His Eminence Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Secretary of State of the Holy See, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, the current summit being convened against a backdrop of apparent crisis in the multilateral system should be a source and a reason for hope, in line with Pope Francis' assertion that hopeful does not mean to be optimistically naive and ignore the tragedy humanity is facing. Hope is the virtue of a heart that doesn't lock itself into darkness, that doesn't dwell on the past, does not simply get by in the present, but is able to see a tomorrow. The future should be constructed on a foundation of principles, including the inherent God-given dignity of every individual, the promotion of integral human development, the equality and sovereign dignity of all nations, and the establishment of trust between them. There is a need to rethink actions in a number of areas. First, eradication of poverty must remain the overarching goal of all future action, bearing in mind that development is the name for peace. This requires the political will to achieve sustainable development, also through the reform of international financial institutions, debt restructuring, and debt forgiveness. Second, the pursuit of peace requires the implementation of a general disarmament, and in particular the total elimination of nuclear weapons. Narrow geopolitical considerations must be put aside, and strong economic lobbies must be resisted in order to uphold human dignity and promote integral development. Third, artificial intelligence. The Holy See advocates for a regulatory framework of AI ethics that encompasses the life cycle of AI and addresses inter alia data protection, accountability, bias, and the impact of AI on employment. Thinking of the future should take into account the needs and interests of future generations, guaranteeing a dignified future for all, ensuring the provision of the requisite conditions, including a nurturing family environment, to facilitate flourishing. If dignity is the foundation and integral human development is the goal of our future, dialogue it is the necessary means. Today the sense of belonging to a single human family is fading, and the dream of working together for justice and peace seems outdated and utopian. This need not to be the case if there is a will to engage in genuine dialogue. As Pope Francis already exhorted this Assembly, the present time invites us to give priority to actions which generate new processes in society, so as to bear fruit in significant and positive historical events. The future demands of us critical and global decisions in the face of worldwide conflicts which increase the number of the excluded and those in need. Mr. President, while taking note of the adoption of the Pact for the Future and its successes, the Holy See, in conformity with its nature and particular mission, wishes to express its reservations on some of the concepts used therein. In the interest of time, the full statement will be uploaded. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Secretary of State of the Holy See. I now invite His Excellency Chenda Sofiasok, the Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Cambodia, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my great honor to address this gathering on behalf of the Royal Government of Cambodia. This is a crucial moment to consolidate our commitment to address together many deeply interconnected challenges: climate change, inequality, poverty, gaps in technology, and increasingly complicated violent conflicts. The Summit of the Future is an opportune occasion to adopt global governance to today's reality. It is time to rebuild trust in the multilateral system as we strive to build a prosperous, healthy, and harmonious world for our current and future generations. Allow me to elaborate on a few key points. First, international peace and security become more fragile with each passing day as geopolitical tensions continue to intensify. It is incumbent on us all to firmly uphold the principle of the United Nations Charter and international law. They are the backbone of the international order and global cooperation. The use of diplomacy and mediation must be prioritized to resolve conflicts. Concerted efforts towards peace building should be enhanced. Cambodia sees great merit in the new agenda for peace presented by the UN Secretary General, and we are proud to have contributed nearly 9,000 men and women to support UN peacekeeping operations since 2006. Once a war-torn country, Cambodia understands that peace is the prerequisite for development and progress. Thanks to peace and stability, Cambodia now ranks among the best achievers on sustainable development goals, particularly when it comes to reducing poverty, providing quality education and health care, creating more jobs, and driving growth, addressing climate change. Second, sustainable development requires sufficient and efficient financing. Cambodia is currently investing in building up its human capital, targeting 1.5 million youths, diversifying its economic base, and intensifying its green transition. Cambodia strongly supports efforts to ensure a fair and rule-based multilateral trading system with the World Trade Organization as its core. Cambodia also joined the call to reform the international financial architecture and address financial gaps, particularly those that affect the least developed countries. Third, the advancement of science, digital technologies, and innovation presents both transformative solutions for human development and risks. Cambodia strongly supports efforts to intensify international cooperation to ensure that the proliferation of science, technologies, and innovation enhance human capital, We must work together to overcome growing digital divides and fight against the misuse of digital technologies. To this end, Cambodia endorsed the Global Digital Compact as a common framework to build an inclusive, open, safe, and secure digital space that will drive the digital transformation of our economies and societies. Fourth, it is our shared responsibility to safeguard the needs and interests of our youth and future generations. Cambodia, fully recognizing the importance of intergenerational partnerships, commit to the letter and the spirit of the Declaration for Future Generations. Cambodia already has in place a long-term development plan called the Pentagonal Strategy. It is designed to ensure that our youth are engaged in and well prepared for long-term development that harmonize economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. We also note the progress in mainstreaming youth into the UN-wide system. Finally, transforming global governance for today's challenges is crucial if
Thank the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Cambodia. I now give the floor to His Excellency Murat Noliu, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan, to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kazakhstan is here today to join efforts with all UN member states and its institutions in ensuring a brighter future both for our planet and entire humanity. Fully supporting the Secretary General's endeavors to build a prosperous community of nations, my country commits itself to all three landmark documents of the Summit of the Future. It is obvious that effective multilateralism enshrined in the Pact for the Future should be central in overcoming today's unprecedented existential challenges and threats. Therefore, the current summit is a timely call for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations system. As stated by President Tokayev of Kazakhstan, the voices of middle powers and the developing world need to be amplified and heard clearly in the Security Council. In times of geopolitical turmoil and economic uncertainty, the world needs diplomacy and dialogue. Mr. President, climate change is a global issue that cannot be addressed without multilateral engagement. Central Asia stands on the front line of global warming and will face 2.5-degree increase in temperatures by 2050. To effectively tackle problems like melting glaciers, water scarcity, biodiversity loss, and desertification, my country will host the first regional climate summit under the auspices of the United Nations in 2026. In addition, we propose to open the United Nations Regional Center on Sustainable Development for Central Asia and Afghanistan to further enhance coordination on SDG deliverables. I'm confident with the right support, this idea will serve as a future role model for UN development mechanisms. Furthermore, Kazakhstan calls on all technological advanced countries to eliminate barriers and commit necessary resources to assist climate-vulnerable communities. Excellencies, digital transformation is a driving power of progress towards the 2030 Agenda. Within the next decade, about 70% of all global goods and services will be produced using digital platforms. The potential benefits of these changes depend on equitable access and cutting-edge technologies in all countries. To this end, being a regional